One of the greatest and most frightening thing about human beings is that we are willing to do things that we absolutely dislike for long periods of time in exchange for a sense of achievement, a title, particular status, particular level of status, and we're willing to just grind. We're willing to devote our lives into doing something that we do not like to do. Now, for those who do enjoy working and they spend most of their time working, that's really good for them. But at the end of the day, work for a lot of people is just a means to an end. It's to keep themselves fed, to keep their families fed at the end of the day. Work isn't everything. But in the case that you do work in a job that you love, that is your calling, and you happen to be really good at it, then you've won the game of life. As my friend would tell me after selling off his selling off his startup to a couple of his investors. After working all this time and building this thing up, decided that this thing really isn't a project that I want to continue doing. So he called it quits. And so he quit and he sold it off. And oftentimes he would reflect upon his experiences and admire from afar those who found their calling and are working to fulfill their purpose. He would often say, that's when you know you've won. And a lot of us, we after living after living for 30, 40, and perhaps 50 years, we still do not know what we're good at. We still do not know what we want to pursue in life. We've made efforts to we made an effort to better our competence in particular lanes in life, and we've achieved things that many others may dream of or many others might want to achieve as well. But once we reflect on on our choices in doing all of this, we're so greatly unhappy. And perhaps it is really luck that plays a role in pursuing a career based off of what you really like. Because even for me, when I first entered this industry, it was I followed a calling, an inner calling that made me move back to Shanghai and work for a sportswear company instead of staying abroad, staying in the States. But I honestly didn't know what I was gonna do anyways. All of my life I've been pretty lost, and I've followed my intuition with picking the line of work being one of them. I never really excelled at anything. I had a lot of interests, But then I never really felt a deep love for particular passion that I would want to become the absolutely best at. And that makes me it gets me a little depressed sometimes. Because a lot of times even when I do try and give a lot of effort in pursuing something to the max, the body and the mind, my brain just gets really tired out. It gets drained. And perhaps it's also my way of pushing myself. I don't really push myself that hard. But it's always felt a little empty when it comes to that aspect in life because I do believe that I am a person with a lot of interests and passion about life on its own. And people often describe me as someone who's full of energy and passion, who's passionate about things, about people, about connections. But lately, I've been losing touch with that side of myself. And perhaps it's a change of environment, and perhaps it's not knowing the people that I'm working with, perhaps is not being considered competent, starting a job fresh and still needing time to acclimate myself with the processes, the people, and what's needed to be done. But right now I'm feeling pretty numb about the job itself, and I find it difficult for me to get up in the morning still to show up to work. Although I do drag myself. The only things that I mostly look forward to is going to the climbing gym, going to the gym and exercising, coming back home and reading. That's and of course, bettering my speaking skills and pursuing a higher level of clarity of thought. Those are the only things that's keeping me afloat in life. And work as of right now is just not a priority. It's not a priority. I never thought that I would arrive at such a state where this numbness would affect my view on life, my performance at work, and my emotional state. Although I've been trying my best to put myself out there and get to know more people, but I'm also a really big introvert, especially when it comes to reaching out to other people for the very first time. I've been doing it. It just takes a lot of effort and it's quite draining. After just meeting one or two new people every week, my quota's drained. I guess that's just what we have to do, eh? But when looking at the tasks of the job that I'm still doing, I don't dislike it. I just feel numb. I feel numb about the processes, bureaucracy, particular formatting requirements when it comes to PowerPoint slides, which you can't say that it's not important, but I would rather not deal with that shit. And there's so much storytelling and repackaging of things that's also very draining. About telling senior leadership a story that would help you grow the business more. The repackaging portion is just ah, can't really get myself to fully dedicate myself to do this. And every time you give those sorts of presentation where you twist the truth in certain ways, it just feels so I just feel so guilty. I'm not able to convince myself even. Although oftentimes it does work. It just seems like this is not something that I would want to be doing long term. And especially when it comes to a big corporate, you would have to do a lot of this once you move up in rank. And a lot of it is just storytelling and just presenting reality in a different way that's more accepting to others and playing to people's strengths and weaknesses. And dealing with people is just so fucking difficult for me especially because I'm the type of person who just doesn't really want to influence other people much. If you don't want to do things the way I want to do it, it's okay. I'll just do it my way and you can do it your way. We'll let time prove who's right and who's wrong. That's normally my take on life, especially when it comes to getting into arguments with people of different points of view. Still listen to what they say most of the time. I don't feel like there's a need to argue much. I can understand their perspective of how they see the world, and that also gives me a deeper understanding of whether my point of view is valid or it still needs more fine tuning. But most of the time, I don't really get into arguments with people. I understand their part of the problem, their perspective, and you can do you, I can do me, and me can do me. As in corporate, a lot of it comes down to fighting for resources, fighting for attention, and fighting for whoever gets the most credit. Man, I just want to do a good job. I just want the result to show for itself. Don't want to do all this political shit. Don't want to do all this people shit. And get on with life. And that I believe is a source of my numbness with corporate life altogether. But the unwillingness to comply is there. It manifests itself in me being tired more often than not compared to how I was feeling at my previous job and jobs before. And perhaps it's all this arguing and this influencing and persuading and giving that story a little twist that's getting to me recently. And I only believe that I will have to do more of it because that's only the beginning of the job. I've only started this job for a month and the worst has yet to come. Well, the busiest has yet to come. So, what I gave myself is still a timeline where I would assess whether this is still right for me, this industry is still right for me, or I can pivot to another industry and still be able to use my skills and experiences, and especially my curiosity for things in a different role. Because having to deal with, but having to deal with people, that's just a problem that's going to exist in every single company and every part of life. And perhaps it is time for me to focus more on my strengths. To focus more on my strengths as opposed to a clear weakness in arguing with people and asserting dominance in the meeting room because I honestly feel like that's not really my way of doing things. And we'll see how it goes. Work is a thing we do to make ends meet. And sometimes I wonder, had I stepped foot into the actual world, started a job earlier when I was younger, would I have found a better route? And would I be more competent as an individual? Would I be able to feed myself outside of a company setting? because that's what most of us are trapped in. It's what we call the golden handcuff. You get to higher level, you get to management level, senior leadership in a company. It comes with really good perks. It gives you, or if you have a family, a pretty good life. Tuition oftentimes also gets paid for. But the moment you stop working for a company, all of that is gone. All of that is gone. And once you get made redundant, all of that is gone. So at this age and time, would our best route still be to work for ourselves? It's a lesson that took me 10 years to figure out. And this is also has also been sped up by technological advancement over the past couple of years and at a very fast rate. And people are starting to wonder what life is going to be unimaginable 3, 5 years from now. So, what I'll try to do now that I've verbally conveyed the issues that I've been facing recently is to arrive at a way to reposition how my relationship with work. And I would need to think of ways to motivate me to be more efficient and regain that competent version of myself. And perhaps that does have to start with getting along with these new people who've been working with each other for what, 3, 5, 10 years already. Might be hard to crack. And I would also need to recalibrate how I assess my self-worth. Never thought that those words would come out of my mouth. But here we are. I do believe that a lot of us are also going through the same problems, asking the same questions, planning and visualizing the same what ifs, and planning for an escape route out of this, out of the golden handcuffs that may capture you in the years to come. Because when you get cuffed, a huge part of life is going to be about work. And you'll be on call, you have to attend meetings for an entire day, day after day, week after week. And that's just something that you have to live with. Take on the responsibility that is worth way more than how much you're paid. And you'll have to dedicate more time to working as opposed to pursuing other things. I don't know if we're just made to work and slave away for corporate. And perhaps this is also something that comes with a certain sense of privilege, as people from hundreds of years ago never had this privilege. To live is already a privilege hundreds and thousands of years ago. And perhaps this is just us bitching. It just, what, 21st century problems are still problems because each generation has their own issues that they have to deal with.